It is 6 o'clock. I will now call to order the December 28th, 2015 meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Being none, we'll move on to no public hearings or meetings. And straight to requests for certificates of compliance. We received a request for a partial certificate of compliance for 25 Paul Street, Lot 2, Mass DEP file number 151269. To issue the partial certificate of compliance relative to the completion of construction activities at the aforementioned location. We also received a construction report for this location. Everyone see that? Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess, are there any questions, comments, concerns initially?
I was interested to note that the chain link fence went up across the back of the property, which is fine, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we didn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I noticed too, that it's not what we were talking about in great detail back and forth.
Yeah.
But at the same time, from my perspective, I'm much happier with this because it's in keeping with the intent of the ongoing conditions. And so I have no qualms with that, if anyone else does.
Well, when she was here, we were talking about doing a deed restriction.
Well, that was already in so when we wrote the order of conditions for the entire project, we wrote it in such a way that this was all kept in, like, long-term property ownership, changes in ownership were kept in mind, and included, hey Colleen, included conditions to be perpetual conditions, basically, to be in effect in perpetuity. And some had to do with, basically, there were some concerns about that, the grading in the backyards of certain lots relative to proper drainage. And so there's one with regard to that. Others had to do with water quality, no rock salt within the buffer zone, no fertilizers or pesticides in lawns and gardens in the buffer zone, with deed restrictions, no underground fuel storage, no discharge or spillage of fuel, oil, or other pollutants, take reasonable precautions to prevent the release of pollutants by ignorance, accident, or vandalism, which is probably not going to be an issue, but stuff, no things you probably don't think you need to say, but we did anyway. So removal and storage of hazardous waste being done properly or not done at all in terms of storage. And then basically just making sure people are aware that their property or portions thereof are subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. And in particular, law and limitations have been established, and noting that as well. So what I did was, in preparing documentation for a partial certificate of compliance, if the commission decides to issue one, was I attached the as-built lot plan that Mark Reed prepared, Heritage Surveys prepared, and also excerpted and attached the special conditions that are to remain in effect in perpetuity, and the lots that they apply to. So it's essentially a summary of the order of conditions without all the construction-related things that expire with the order itself, in the hopes that this would help continue the chain of information along the line. So, does anyone? And we did a site visit November 21st. Was that when we were out there for the fence?
I can look back in my meeting minutes.
Okay. So what led to the decision-making process here?
She said her sister convinced her.
Wow, that's okay. It's fine. I was just curious.
Yeah, it seems, I saw it today, she had the dog in the back there, dog seemed happy,
Hey,
so.
can you imagine it's a small dog?
It's a small dog, yeah.
Maybe I won't kick it. 'It.
Part pit bull, part something else.
Okay.
Part pit bull, part something else. 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 Part pit bull, part someth
Okay.
Well, so
It is
hopefully the dog will be happy.
I mean, they're,
And the owner.
And the owner.
Hopefully she'll be happy.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's not in the 14th minute. I don't know when we went.
Does anyone have their phone to look over when we have that site visit?
Oh, we went on that. We did
We
a big
went-
on November 21st.
Oh,
we
I
did
think
a
it was the
bunch of
21st because I couldn't go. And
Yeah,
then we went on
and we
to
went on
the
several meetings. Oh yeah,
to
the site visit occurred Saturday, November 21st.
because it was the state cross country.
All commissioners and attending
Which
except
which I didn't
Commissioners
realize
Krause and
was
Buttrick.
Okay.
early when we had set that.
All right,
Didn't
so
like the time.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna be able to go.
Gotcha.
are there any questions, comments, concerns, further discussion?
Nope.
Nope.
Would anyone care to make a motion?
I'll move to issue a certificate of compliance for
Partial.
partial for Paul Street, 25 Paul Street, with the noting the continuing conditions that are attached here to therefore.
Such as 1730, no, it's on there.
It's on the front.
Page two.
I think I'm getting worse at this job. 17, 34, 36 through 38, 41 through 43, and 40 through 51,
Which is why they're extra.
which is why they're excerpted.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
I'll
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Oops, they're signing. I'll just take a moment to copy things.
I think, I don't know if it was the last meeting when Mark was there, I think Dan had asked about a lone pile at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Yes.
Had you asked
Yeah.
about a little, yes.
There was a stockpiling in the walkway or something.
The Poscomics entrance is adjacent to the condos land. There's a little bit of silt fence, so we don't have anything piled on that.
Oh, okay.
So they're just waiting till the street gets accepted, then they're gonna make that entrance. So
More
it'll probably be
formal.
springtime before they do that.
So it's Pascomics soil or
No, it's, the soil that we scraped off from the road is on my last lot,
okay.
but there's a 20-foot wide egress or entrance,
Flag.
which will be connecting up to the paths there eventually. And they're gonna put a sign there, but I'm not sure what happened with the street acceptance. The catch basin's been cleaned. We're just waiting for the okay. And then we said that's fine for them to continue.
And I was out on the conservation path, that's the Beckley Trail from the end of Branch Ave, and I noticed that all the, behind the houses that you have built, everything is on that side of the silt fence is stable and
It is, yeah.
nothing's been tossed over or anything like that, so that's great.
Yeah.
Big Brother is watching.
You know,
Needed to run little legs.
Did you happen to notice on the other side of the ravine if the plant pots have been picked up that I noticed in?
Probably, no, I
Ages
don't believe
ago?
they haven't.
No, that's the trust issue, I guess.
Oh right, I think I wrote to John Bigger about this.
Yeah.
But there, on the plus side, there don't seem to be any signs of vandalism on the trail
That's good.
itself or any of the stairs or crossings and
The viewing
falling.
platform.
Hmm?
The viewing platform down there.
Right, we even found the micro cache. There's a geocache,
Oh,
and it's micro.
neat.
It is neat.
You're not
She
supposed to
will
actually read things.
I know,
before
I
you
know.
say-
That's fine.
I was interested, I missed some of it.
Oh, right, you weren't on the commission when we issued, do you want a copy of the order? You can take it, it's just a spare
She
PD
didn't
copy
get
from
months ago
PDF.
now.
No, I'm sorry.
Melissa, I think
Really?
you need to tick or
It was,
X
it was-
Someone
also.
does need to,
Partial
right, I
certificate.
can't do that before we make a decision.
Okay.
Thanks.
That
Or
was
I
back in.
You're not gonna do it?
I
Or you're
can-
gonna do it after you?
That's fine.
Okay. I just thought it was an oversight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Issued partially, partial. Part.
Yes.
How does that work,
So this one here.
Has-
with salt? It looks like the entire driveway is gonna be in the 100-foot buffer zone.
So they can't use rock salt.
So anyway.
There are alternatives
Okay.
to
I just don't know how to,
traditional
enforce.
salts.
Sorry.
Hopefully, information will lead to,
Good choices.
to better choices.
Yeah.
Luckily, that side, the sun really
And
beats on
that's
those driveways there.
That's
That will help.
You get good sun, it melts well there.
Gonna be good at organic lawn care stuff at my house.
Just don't use that. Okay, today is 28, 2015, partial. Alright, I will be right back after I make the copy.
Cue the elevator music. Dun, 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 dun. Been trying to get that for years.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just kind of that one's fault.
Jeopardy at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So you got another house going in across the street. Ooh. Ah.
Similar to that one,
Yeah,
a little bit larger.
yeah. Should be more than halfway done, or
There'll be,
that'll be halfway, I guess. 5 out of 10.
4 lots left.
Yeah. I can't believe no one's gone for the end two. That, you know, I was trying to convince my parents to like, hey, look at those nice spots.
The
Original?
one in the corner,
Yeah.
okay, thank you,
You're
is
welcome.
really a nice lot.
Yeah.
My wife actually wants me to hold it. We're thinking about that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
You grab some
So we're all-
staples.
Do you have to vote yet, or is that?
Nope, we're done.
Done.
You're all
Okay.
set, that just needs to be recorded and then proof of recording submitted.
Okay,
You can even just email the book and page
okay.
that it gets recorded against and email it to conservation at Easthampton and that'll be fine.
Okay.
Throw your pen at me.
Yeah.
All right,
All right, well,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much,
Okay,
have a
welcome.
great new year.
Hold on.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Bye now.
Bye.
So,
When you were out, he was trying to make small talk. He's like, so, the big house on the other side, and he threw his pen behind his
Just
chin.
like that.
So it's kind of amazing. It was perfectly awkward.
I worked
It's
there
awesome.
all day, all week. Okay,
Keeps it interesting.
Fantastic.
yeah,
Keeps life interesting.
yep.
And a little unpredictable, even to me.
Even for you.
So, moving right along. We have no emergency certifications, no updates regarding the enforcement order at 37 South Street.
Did you give
I
Jay
emailed,
the contact
yes,
information?
she did, and I emailed
I
Bernie, I
did.
haven't heard anything back, and I'll
Great.
wait till the first week of January and call them.
Fair
Okay.
enough. Thank you. Compliance updates. Mount Tom Estates,
No update.
no updates. Paul Street Extension,
We just got
got
the
our
update.
report. Pleasant Street Mills,
We
no
haven't received any
updates.
so no, nothing, no weekly reports.
The
no
site looks
reports at
in
all.
pretty good shape, though.
Mhm.
Okay.
I was out there last Tuesday, and they definitely put the straw fencing or
Wall?
no
Hey, blanket.
blanket,
Blanket.
straw
Right.
blanket
Right.
like a
Right.
yeah
Okay.
Slow.
yeah. Although the far end of one of those
The
little
smaller one is
whoop-de-doos.
kind of in rough shape. It won't do.
You know what I'm talking about?
And
the
you think
whoop-de-doos?
frauded. You don't like the word fraud. I see how it is.
I think
at
frauded.
the end was a
Whoop-de-doos
little
may
in rough-
actually be an actual word,
It's,
though.
yeah.
Fraud
It was a
will
little
be
rough,
next
in rough
year.
shape, but
Okay.
yeah.
In case there's anything we should do about it with the rough shape.
I
They
think
should
they've been
probably.
on it. I think
Yeah.
they've been taking care of
I
it.
mean, and it's
so.
been almost 2 weeks now
Yeah,
since
well.
I was there, so
Okay. I mean, honestly, getting some snow would be good.
Yeah.
freezing the
Yeah,
ground. Yeah.
All of that.
Security, yeah.
Nashwanik Hills, 15 Cottage Street,
Nothing.
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 Nothing on the Oxbow, nothing on Town Beach since we spoke with Jessica.
I took the concrete home.
You did? Okay.
Oh,
Stop.
all right.
Did you really?
Don't throw it down in your
Yeah.
wetland.
I didn't throw it in the river. When I broke, I took it home.
Or down your.
No, I put it in my
Pavement.
pile of stuff that has to go away.
Thank you,
That's
Dad.
fantastic. I love it.
Assist. Thank you.
Bathroom's
Lathrop's
on
on
hold.
hold till next year. PCT Mutter Field.
We got a report.
We got a report.
The site looks good.
They've got this section
This one.
over the little brook, looks mostly done, still blocked off, but it looks like it's done. Yeah, you see it there.
So they do have a need to maintain the erosion control barriers based on this photo.
Yes.
I'll pass it around. So hopefully those piles are pretty stable. Is this out of order?
I hope not.
No, they're
Oh.
a series of photos. That looks like
Yeah,
it was
does.
taken before that.
It does.
Cause you wouldn't look like that after
Right.
stockpiling all that up there, so. I mean, hopefully, yeah, those don't look like highly erodible soils, but if those were to fail, if the piles were to give, they would bury the waffle.
But yeah, the wattle's
Mini
certainly
landslide.
undersized.
Yes, those are just little piles though, aren't they?
They're significantly higher than the, and they're probably fine,
Yeah,
just
totally fine.
saying.
It looks,
But-
is it fairly level ground?
This is sloped,
It
Is it
slopes,
sloped?
yeah.
somewhat sloped,
A
gently
little bit
sloped,
sloped.
Cause this is the house of the neighbor.
Yes.
yes,
So, oh, right, oh, yeah, okay. 'Cause- So it's gonna probably run that way.
Yep.
toward the stream.
Not this way, but towards the stream,
Right.
that way. Yes, exactly.
She's got it. Has anyone else been out there?
I was out there,
You
so,
were out there.
I mean, there's piles, but it's not
It's not out of
thunderstorm
control.
season really, so
Yeah.
I think we're okay.
Very good. So that's it for those. I guess before we go into these general business items, I did get a response, the commission did get a response via email from the property owner at 14 Pomeroy Meadow.
Okay,
And it is a burn pile.
that's what it looks like.
But also, they are not aware of the fact that their property has floodplain and or riverfront area.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. So, very pleasant correspondence.
Oh, good.
I provided a copy of the FEMA permit for that part of town, which sadly hasn't been updated, cause we're Hampshire County, not Hamden County. So it's, you know, it's as good as it was in 1979 or 81 or whenever the date of those maps is. And they also raised some concerns about a neighboring property, so that is ongoing in terms of education and outreach. So with that, Jay, you were at the Borachowski parcel
Yes.
on December 15th?
Yes, with Jessica, Officer Kinlock was there also.
Can you spell this? Do you have any idea?
Kinlock.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't know if anyone looked at pictures that were,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that Jessica took some photos. When we look in the restriction, there's no real mention of anything that makes this illegal to the restriction. The conservation restriction doesn't really have
Limitations
really
on
pretty
passive
wide-
versus.
Yes, it's pretty wide open. So the only, it's city land. The only thing is that the disturbance is happening near possible wetlands
And they're
or
taking,
streams.
and there's the removal of, presumably the removal of timber with value from city property,
That's
not
correct.
for city
Right,
purposes.
Right.
Okay.
But the police officer didn't really think it was something that there was a lot of, he could put a lot of teeth into, that's all.
So from our perspective as a commission and as the steward of that land, is there any signage at, you know, kind of access egress points to the property?
There is signage at
At the-
that one area, but I'm not sure it says anything about,
Not for,
not to steal things.
yeah, public harvest.
Right.
Right, because we should have to. Okay,
But
so,
they
so
don't.
should we be thinking about better signage where,
I think
in
that's
general,
Access
and?
points.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good step. They're not coming through an access point, obviously, they're coming
Well,
through the
they-
backyard to.
But that's what I mean, they're not the main access point,
But
but
the
adjacent
trail, right.
parcels, there's a trail, so
Right.
let's think about.
Posting it along the trail that borders,
The trail, the one trail.
Put a billboard
The-
behind this guy.
with the section,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just the one trail.
With the bzzz
So then,
lights
and then
on
I
it.
guess I have property management questions that maybe we talk about this or other parcels, in general about, what are you saying?
No, keep going.
Passive, you know, I mean, it's a steeply sloping parcel, it's got wetlands and streams. You know, I think it was, without having been there at the time, it wouldn't surprise me if passive recreation had been the expectation. You know, walking,
The original
running,
intent
hiking.
of the,
Right, not motorized vehicles.
Right.
Because there's no great motorized vehicle access.
Well,
There's no
just-
parking,
Right, and they just mess up the trail, so what's
and
really
they're
happening?
making a mess of the trails and
It
streams.
may be hard to see from the photos, but they're dragging them
No,
with a
it's
rope or a chain.
pretty clear.
Okay, and,
making
just
it
making
long.
a trough, which is a downhill, and when
Yeah.
we get a heavy rain, it's gonna wash things out.
So,
Well, and we wouldn't allow someone to cut timber that had fallen, you know, one tree that had fallen down in a storm.
Mm.
Why is this any different?
well, and that's right, now we've got a separate issue, which is the removal of timber, which is an activity subject to the Endangered Species Act regulations that we don't have authorization, and as the city as the property owner is responsible, even if the city isn't performing the activity,
Or
so,
permitting the activity.
right.
Right.
What's
Are
the
you
violation
serious?
of the what act?
The Massachusetts Endangered Species Act.
So the property owner is responsible?
You're
for-
responsible for what you're responsible for what happens on your property for wetlands violations,
Even if it's a unauthorized party?
even if it's unauthorized, you're responsible for your property.
As if you are, if someone falls down your stairs, even though you didn't invite them into your house.
If you
Right.
buy a property with a filled wetland, you're responsible for that filled wetland.
Can we sue ourselves and then get this guy to reimburse us for the damages that we
Pretty sure
incurred?
that's not gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, you're probably right, but it's
I
just like
think we have to
brainstorm.
go for, we can't even, we're gonna have to fight for someone to take our minutes, so I'm pretty sure we're not gonna be able to fund suing ourselves. You can talk to someone about
Yeah,
it.
I contacted the environmental police too, and they said that they probably, it sounds like they're responsible for state-owned lands more so than anything, so they wouldn't really get involved in this even if there are endangered species involved.
So I think at our next meeting, hopefully Jessica can be here and we can talk to her about signage and installing that signage and how we establish rules and regulations for conservation land use.
At this point in time, can the conservation restriction be changed to identify?
I think that would take,
Too much.
well, I'm not saying it can't be done, I'm just saying I don't know what it takes, but they're legal documents, CRs get reviewed by the state.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what the best way to go about addressing this particular location would be, and also coming up with a set of kind of standard rules and regulations that
Apply to all.
apply to
of our-
all conservation properties.
We did that in 2013.
But we did you find it?
No, that's why,
That's why you, do you wanna?
because we have to go and look through the minutes and find it when we, do you remember this?
No, exactly.
Do you remember this, Chris? It was like in 2013 or earlier, 2011. Even
Share
earlier.
it more?
It was like in 2009,
Okay,
we
see, this
wrote
is when I
these
started.
open space policies for, that would apply to all conservation commission's lands, and then
Mhm.
we voted it in at a meeting that happened later, I think
I
around
see.
2011. And I went back through the minutes that I have on my computer at work, but I didn't,
Not far enough.
yeah, it didn't go far enough.
So we need to check our minutes
So we-
binders is what we need to do.
That's right. Yep.
I don't recall that.
And I have the document, I just would like to, you know,
In
just have that
So-
record of
so
when
maybe
time, can't we contact the person that we think is responsible and kindly ask them to
kindly stop.
stop?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. We could do that.
yeah, we should do
Look
that.
up that information, draft a letter, send it out.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
so it's gonna be at the quickest possible, you know, to get the quickest result.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we want to wait and for that action until we talk to Jessica?
We
the
should
next
wait
meeting,
till
or
Yeah.
talk
can
to
we do that now?
Jessica, I believe.
Yeah.
Before
That's
sending a
what we'll do.
letter
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Sent Kelly up there to talk to the guy like last time.
When is that meeting? January what?
11,
Maybe
maybe?
one?
Does
Yeah.
anyone have a, that's what I wrote. Is that this?
It's my birthday.
That sounds right.
Is it really? Aw.
That's why I remember it so well.
You'll wait until after this meeting on your birthday, then you'll really
So
remember
what do
your
you get?
birthday.
Okay, so and guitar.
How you know you're an adult?
Yeah.
You do things like this on your birthday. Go to work.
Next steps. Okay.
Okay, so, Jay, would you mind writing up a brief memo of your site visit?
Yeah, no problem.
So that we can put it in the,
Okay. I was looking for the conservation restriction that Jessica sent out, but sure.
that way when we're sitting around
Yeah.
trying to remember,
No problem.
not remembering. Okay. Meeting minutes approval? Is there any further discussion there? Okay. Meeting minutes approval, December 14th, 2015. Everyone review the meeting minutes?
Oh, this isn't,
Did I post today? Today?
a site visit. It said there was gonna be a site visit on December 19th.
Oh yeah, did
Did
that
y'all go?
happen?
I'm just curious.
Yes.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, we did.
So let's
As a
recap
ma-
that,
as a
because
matter
we've
of fact.
completely forgotten.
Before we
What's
forget
that
even
about again?
further.
This is a
Dave Levin.
property off O'Neill Street.
Oh.
Public concerns.
So on December 19th at 1 o'clock, Commissioners Electric, Ryan, and I met Mark Reed and Dave Lovin.
Yes.
Lovin'.
I'm not gonna say it.
I
At this property, it's off of O'Neill Street, opposite Industrial Parkway. There's conceptual site layout, there's no application yet. This was just to take a look at the property before there's any snow on the ground, should they file midwinter and there's snow on the ground, so that we've at least seen it. The property was delineated. We don't have any data on the boundary. A lot of it's hemlock forest. But also areas of high groundwater. There's proposed wetland impacts for access, as well as site grading.
Yeah, they would have to fill in where they're building to get the grade up high enough.
Right. So there's, they'd have to bring in, these dark contours are proposed contours,
Oh, wow.
or conceptual contours. So there would be a lot of work, and at this point, and it's all forested. But we would have to see what they propose and when they propose it. This is the Northampton New Haven Canal, a remnant of it back here. So, be interesting. So we did that.
And it was as they said, I guess.
Yeah,
Nothing, no surprises.
nothing, I mean,
No
nothing,
surprises.
No.
I mean, we weren't really scouring the site, but, in general, we walked around we did the entire loop. It's not that big a site, or at least it didn't seem like it was that big once we were out there.
It makes my brain short circuit too, because it's just like a little island of upland surrounded by wetlands,
Mhm.
which is, seems backwards, but that's how it is.
Yep.
Yep, so every time I look at the plan, I'm like.
Oh yeah, that's what
what's
I'm like trying to
going
figure
on?
out right now.
That's Industrial Parkway right there.
So north is also a little strange, cause it's not.
Wait, is it entirely a buffer zone? Or, oh, this
No,
is the line.
no, if
Okay.
you see the, so the diagonal hatching is proposed fill,
Okay.
and the honeycomb pattern is potential replacement area.
So this, oh yeah, fill area number 2, fill area number 1.
Yeah, to build this access road.
So this is all part of fill area number one?
Yes.
And then they replaced the replicated ones down here to
Mhm.
pay their debt.
Potentially.
Did the replacement areas look promising, or,
It would be contiguous
yeah?
where they show them. But there's no replacement area plan, you know, none of that's been provided. So it will depend on the level of detail shown. Great, thank you.
Thanks for that report.
You're still looking?
No.
No?
No.
Can't hold it up?
Too early.
TV. All right. All right, so is there any other business to discuss?
We haven't actually voted on the minutes yet.
Okay, we do need to
We're
vote on
scouring
minutes.
them right now.
Scouring.
What else did we, not done any other site visits?
Did you wanna have it put in there about the Pomeroy? I didn't write anything down.
Yeah, you can.
So what was it again?
So there was an email response to the letter we sent by certified mail from, the property owner.
I don't recall, okay. So that was an email response. I don't remember this, but that's,
Last meeting.
Okay.
I find the letter.
okay, right.
I got it Christmas Eve. Whatever. So, there was, obviously some concerns, so I responded to the email
Mhm.
through the conservation email. The owner identified, the tarp covered pile as their burn pile. It's material from the property, and a lack of, and, you know, that, their Realtor had not identified floodplain on the property.
Or riverfront.
Or riverfront, the parcel's long and narrow, and it goes from Pomeroy Meadow back to the Manhattan River. I actually did talk to a Realtor briefly, just to say what, if any, obligations does a Realtor have? And really, if there's no structure in floodplain that would require flood insurance, there's no
Obligation.
Realtor's obligation to, disclose or be informed of
Identify that to their prospective
If you,
buyers.
if you think about it, I mean, right, people, you look at things through your own lens, and so, so there's no understanding at this point, other than the correspondence, that there are areas subject to Wetlands Protection Act jurisdiction on the property. So my goal is going to be to identify and explain what that means
To the property owner.
to the property owner. And if they're removing trees, the reason for the burn pile was that when the property floods, the water can convey trash that gets hung up in the vegetation, and they have young children running around back there when it's not flooded, and they don't want them to get hurt on anything, or basically be playing around trash, which is completely reasonable. But if the trees that they're removing are within riverfront area, that's another discussion. And regardless, it's floodplain, so.
What was the address again?
14
It is
Pomeroy
14,
Meadow.
okay.
And then they raised some concerns about the adjacent property to the north, owned by Ron Lauren, that were not, I didn't fully understand the concerns, so I asked.
But that's a farm, so
He has more,
more
there's more
flexibility,
leeway
yeah.
if the activities meet agricultural exemptions.
he has all those fields.
He has all those fields,
And the north is towards West Street.
yes. So.
Who does all the dirt bike riding? We don't know which
I
parcel
believe
that's
that's
on.
14 Pomeroy.
And,
Not illegal.
Yeah.
and the clearing was, happening within the buffer zone and within the river.
Not
We don't
determined.
Okay.
No, not determined.
Okay.
But it was from the property.
Yes.
The debris is from the property. Or burn pile.
And they're going to request a burn permit, when burn season begins January 15th. So the burn pile is really temporary. So I see this as an education and outreach opportunity as opposed to an enforcement
Yeah.
issue. But I don't know, that's my opinion alone, so if anyone feels differently and would want to take the lead in a different way, they're welcome to.
No.
No?
I feel like we're gonna get better results if we reach out in an education and outreach manner rather than enforcement. I mean, they,
Yeah, another day at the conservation agent would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
that said, I find the minutes from our last meeting quite thorough. And I'm.
And we're gonna miss that. So is that a,
That is a
partial
motion, no, it's a full motion.
Full motion.
To approve the minutes from the December 14th meeting. Oh, except that you put Rick LeBombard instead of Rich LeBombard.
Oh, okay, I'll make a change. Just mark it a little.
But
You
you
have a
can come
pen?
back next week to,
yeah, we can fix that.
To
No,
fix
you're gonna
that.
kill my needle point pen, we don't get my pen, dude.
I'll second the motion.
Uh,
I'll second the motion and the correction.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
So moved.
Very tiny.
I appreciate it. It's good.
So, with that, motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
So moved.